Welcome back. This is a special edition of the IT in the D Show. We're recording live from the CXO Exchange here in the beautiful Madison Lofts in Detroit, Michigan. I'm your host, Bob Wallenspiel. New co-host, Brian Schneble, is in the house. You might know him. Everyone knows Brian. Guests for this part, we got Eric in the house from Palo Alto Networks, and we got John and Goff in the house from Polera Technologies. That's Goff spelled like cough, not like Jared Goff. Who John is like, no, I don't know who that is. I'm like, you are not from Detroit, not know who Jared Goff is. He's from New York.
I literally thought he was visiting because of the game tonight. I was like,
yeah,
brother playing in the game. This is pretty cool. And we got him on air right now.
He spells it like cough though, so
it's different. Yeah.
So for those that don't know, everyone knows what Palo does. For those that don't know what Polera does, can you just give a quick elevator pitch on what you guys do and where do you guys live?
Sure. We're a global company, primarily located in North America. We've got also have a presence over in the EU. We are somewhere between a value-added reseller and a systems integrator. So we come to the table with a focus to advise our customers on how to implement technology. We then help do the implementation and help them manage it. We've got skills across AI, data, cloud, app mod, and digital infrastructure.
Because you guys have grown from, that's why when you kind of saying kind of that fringe reseller, fringe integrator, because from an IT, from an integration, from a security services, like you brought all these kind of teams together now.
Yeah.
And knowledge sets are.
Yeah, we're a 7-year-old company made up of 37 30-year-old companies, roughly, right? So we've got all this institutional knowledge from these local resellers that had superpowers in their area, right? Here in Detroit, there, CBI was big cybersecurity, so they got acquired because of that was their superpower. And so we brought all these to make a global company, fundamentally.
Were any of the acquisitions AI related?
Absolutely. So I came out of Essex Tech, we bought Gemini Systems, and so we were boots on the ground, hands on keyboard. The early days of Watson, over 10 plus years ago.
So Eric, we've come a long way from going, no, I'm secure, I got firewalls, to where we are today in security. Palo's obviously been in driving in the leadership seat. What is, like, for anyone that hasn't kept up with security over the last few years, what's something that Palo's doing now that is kind of mind-blowing or kind of changing the game in terms of the security stack?
Yeah, with regards to what we've done throughout the industry is, outside of becoming the single focus largest cybersecurity company, we've basically taken everything and modulated it down to 2 separate platforms. And when I say platforms, we look at the holistic approach of, if all your data is in one spot, it's a lot easier to anomalize that data and look at the attack vectors and take that telemetry and build attack paths and everything, rather than taking 30 different tools into one spot. So we cover everything throughout the aspect. When you talk about AI, obviously AI, we have a separate framework around that called Prisma Errors, which what I tell everybody is, you've got your specialty companies. What we did is we made an investment into a company called Protect AI about 8 months ago, and we brought them in. And what we did is brought them into our current AI platform. What that does is look at everything from the development side through runtime and protection. And then we made another investment into a private browser or enterprise browser with talent acquisition. So what we've done is we've taken the best of breed companies out there and not reinvented the wheel, but integrated them into a product stack that we have.
Did you say the first acquisition was, say that again?
No, we did an acquisition of Talon probably a little over a year ago.
Very familiar with the Talon acquisition, but the other one you mentioned
is Protect AI.
Okay, Protect AI.
They really focused on AI model red teaming and model scanning and those components from, looking at building those guardrails and making sure you're not ingesting bad code. Because, we don't do developers nowadays. Nobody is going out and writing code from scratch. They're going out to Hugging Face. They're downloading that code, injecting it into their models and making sure that doesn't have nefarious activity or data within there. Yeah.
So I'm just curious. I haven't brought this up in a while, but zero trust was we always talk about marketing buzz. That's one of the topics of the show a lot, and how AI is the buzz, or agentic is. We're not allowed to say it on the show, but I saw zero trust. It was smoking hot for 2-3 years, and we haven't heard a thing in about a year. Does that just mean the methodology has been adopted already and it's kind of normal, or have we moved past it? Or I guess where is zero trust today in the security stat?
I can speak to that as well, but I'm having conversations about zero trust daily almost.
Okay.
With regards to, even not so much with AI, but zero trust is still looking at, identity phase, controlling your apps, your data, and getting that to a single control plane. Well, we do it from, not just our firewall aspect, but a SASE aspect. We bring that into there.
So not switching gears, staying on the zero trust end, but on that, so like from a perimeter standpoint, when you were talking about having all your data in one location, right, which makes it really easy, or makes it easier, right?
Yep.
But then you look at, and I thought it was interesting to see wasn't it AWS and Google that just announced their kind of partnership now from a cloud to cloud standpoint, right? And what that means, because they're realizing, like, we have a lot of customers that are multi-cloud, trying to force them all into one thing is never, like, we're never going to win all of it. So it would be nice to allow our customers that ability to play better together. But from when I look at zero trust, from a perimeter basis, you have, companies that can be very spread out, data that can be very spread out. But you mentioned identity. And on the zero trust, and when people say identity is the new perimeter, right? Identity is kind of like the new trust part, right? Like, Bob, I like you. I've never trusted you strictly because of zero trust, right?
Yeah.
And that was based on identity, right? But there are other reasons why I totally trust him. But on the identity aspect with AI, what I've seen is more of that NHI conversation, right? And in our previous interview here, conversation, when you look at, I refer to it as the human resources of your NHI versus the human resources of all your human identities, right? The ability to keep track of all your applications. But now you have all these NHIs. You have people working on AI projects, and because of the agents, the bots, et cetera, you have all these new non-human identities. And you're starting to see this increase where to do like an assessment, right? If you were to come in and do an assessment on identity, right? And people, like, it's kind of like a three-prong approach, right? And some of the legacy tools were very focused on this PAM-style Active Directory. And then there was the solutions that were working on the identities on your applications. But now you have this NHI, and companies coming in were spending months, right, doing kind of assessments to figure that out. But if you were starting that 6 months ago versus today and you were doing AI projects, they're seeing an increase of like 50-1 NHI to human, 100-1 NHI to human, right? As now you have all these new identities, right? So when people say who governs it, right? Who's the HR for that? Where does that fall into your Active Directory, right? So like, I very much am seeing that kind of zero trust aspect not falling back, but being brought up on the AI conversation around identity. Right, I don't know. I wasn't asking the question or beating it up to if that's you guys were doing, but conversation. Like I'll start here on this side. Like, what are you guys hearing, seeing on that side of it? Because very much when you look at the firewall history and then that kind of transformation to the platform and that SASE, right, coverage where maybe you are just having firewalls located at data centers and headquarters now, but you're able to proliferate out using SASE technology, right, SD-WAN, et cetera. But now you have the identity conversation of everything that still encompasses inside there.
Right. And, from that identity perspective, well, we got the umbrella, but it comes down to your network architecture and how you want to really manage that. As we start talking, as we're bringing in SASE and local firewalls, that becomes a very much prolific conversation on how that architecture needs to be done and where your security calls all are. But what we did is we developed a tool like the Strata Cloud Manager, which is a centralized control plane SaaS application that looks at your local firewalls, and it takes all that log ingestion into that component. But when you're talking about identity, when you're going into NHI, it is really you're starting to look at just your AI posture management as well. You got to make sure what's out there from your AI component and what's living and breathing. But as those identities are spinning up, there's going to have to be, a control aspect set around there, which, right now falls outside of my purview. I don't have, I mean, we're making an investment. You probably heard we're going to be buying CyberArk here within the new year.
Definitely heard that.
So, with Benify as a component of that for certificate management, we're going to find a lot of value. And, I think, I don't have the
crystal ball.
Of what Nikesh is thinking in this acquisition and the back end. But my assumption is this is the only real gap that we have is that identity component, and hoping we're going to be able to address that, I think, with this acquisition. Yep.
And then, because you mentioned you work on a lot of AI projects, right?
Right.
And so when we were talking security on those and NHIs and also data, right?
Right.
So
full transparency, my background is as a chemist. I taught myself
engineer.
There you go.
Half the people in IT have biology degrees. Let's let this comment be Hans.
Oh,
biologist?
No, business.
Okay.
Business. Okay. But he is biological.
Right.
So, at least
one of the reasons I trust him.
A little more biological than most people, but I'll digress.
Yeah. So, definitely the, security posture is extremely important when building out a new application or implementing a third-party application into your systems, right? You definitely need to have least privileges and consider what that threat profile is going to look like. The challenge, I'll say from our standpoint, is the technology is so emergent and constantly changing that it's really difficult to have a full understanding of what's going on, right? MCP is less than a year old, or maybe it is a year old in November. And they're still sorting out how to make that fully secure. But enterprises are implementing it and leveraging it to access databases, to access network access points. So, it's a little bit of the Wild West. Ideally, everything should be zero trust. But at the same time, are you going to be left behind? Are you going to keep up? It's an evolution.
And the speed at which it can be proliferated is insane. I mean, you can build AI to build AI, and you can start that proliferation of your tools throughout. So that's
right.
It's
like, I feel like you should ask the question that you asked in the last group, right? Like, is AI just this search engine? How did you word that?
I never made anyone angry having any of these conversations except one time where I said, isn't AI just a really fast or really good search engine? And it's like, you saw the blood pressure rising 10 points and you saw like this disdain for this sales guy. But I don't know if I was wrong, but I'm looking at it from the viewpoint of a user, and I go, well, give it what I want. I give it what I want, and then it gives me output.
From the person who's using it.
Right.
Have you ever used it to write code or create an app?
No. I didn't know. Randy, what app did I write that one day? What did I use?
The meetup attendee.
Yeah, I know, but what was the tool I used? I used some tool.
The PG one.
It was
how long ago?
Like 2 months ago.
Okay. Yeah.
Was it Pelican or was something goofy? I just said I want an app that does this, and
Goose. Probably Goose.
It wasn't Goose. It was a duck. I'm going down the bird lines, but
yeah. I mean, when you grabbed a pigeon or Goose or whatever it was, and
Maverick,
right? Goose,
Tyrannosaurus Rex, and created your application.
Every day there's a new one that comes out.
Yep. It does more. It's more than search, right? Because it actually writes code. It will run the code. That's
what I wanted, though.
It will debug the code for you.
The output, though, is what I wanted. So what's the difference? It doesn't really write. It spits out what existed.
No, it didn't. It'll write brand new code. It'll write code that's never been written before. It'll follow a design pattern, but it's different. And here's the thing, right? It will, with your permission, it'll run the code for you. It'll debug the code for you. It'll tell you what went wrong. It'll say, oh, wait, you know what? I need to install the AWS CLI so I can check the logs to see what's wrong. That's more than a search engine, right? If you're using a tool where it spits out the code, you copy, paste it, put somewhere else, and run it, that's different.
First time I got a proper answer on this, because
so this is significant. This is significantly different, and it's also significantly dangerous in the sense that, I was strewn around in our sandbox, and I built an app, full stack application, front end, back end, database, 3 API access points, 3 different models that I was using, and deployed on AWS in under 2 hours.
No,
right? And I didn't write a single line of code. I just yelled at the AI and said, do it.
And it did.
And it didn't. What also happened was in trying to fix it.
Right, I was just about that would happen when you actually had to fix it because you're not the owner of it.
It fixed itself. It fixed my app for me, but it broke the firewall rules and it broke something else running in the environment.
Yeah.
Right? Because I didn't wrap my arms around it because I was in the sandbox playing around. But I broke something else that actually was important that I didn't even know happened. Right?
So what he did is he created a wrestling match between the security bot and the code bot. And the code bot won because it beat up the security bot.
That's right.
It's like water. It's going to find the least path of resistance to accomplish the job and get you your output as fast as it can do it.
Oh, so here's a good one, right? Oh, this didn't work. It seems like I've got an authorization issue because I'm not authorized. Let me deactivate all the authorization and turn that off. No, please don't do that.
So this goes back into the none.
This is a great hot fix. Let me do this hot fix and we can reference to fix this later. No, don't do that.
At least he was in a sandbox though, and not in prod. I've heard those other stories too.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. And that was one of the things where people are like, when you talk shadow IT, the thing with AI right now is there's shadow AI because everybody, there's no guardrails. Everybody, they're not outside of a sandbox environment, and they're just.
Do we have our own guardrails though? Because
I mean, that's
like because our guardrails are still going to keep the thing bouncing around on this path, right? To get somewhere, there actually has to be like guard doors, right? What it can open and go into, and what it can't, right? Because the guardrails can still flip over the edge.
Right. No, I think you're absolutely correct.
Like thumper bowling, is that better?
I mean,
logical policing.
Bob, I think you want to stick it in a rubber room. That's right. Let it bounce off the walls, but don't open that door. Right.
That was after I graduated college for about 6 months, but that's it's a different story for a different time.
Right. That's been erased from the record. So with seals.
Also a reason for zero trust.
Exactly. Right. No, I think, it's important to understand, the power of this. And, and to your point, it can be dangerous, right? And, you put guardrails around it. But why is shadow AI a problem? Well, I don't know about you, bud, but I'm a lazy guy, right? I really should be going out and doing 3 to 5 mile walks every morning, right? Making less of myself, but I don't because I don't need to.
But this also goes back to the arguments that used to be had between security, compute, storage, and like, hey, I need this thing stood up, but it takes compute, 3 days, then it takes storage 2 days to provision, then it takes network.
If you
get on those poor,
if you could pop open your phone and get the answer, and then email to yourself, copy paste.
But I think it's more impatient, less lazy. I think I'm impatient. I want to.
That is also we're talking about how
on it now.
Speed wins.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's still somewhat is a search engine, and what I mean by that is. And this is,
I can't believe you got my side.
It can function. It can function as one, but it also goes beyond that.
It is.
Goes beyond.
What does it be? Define a search engine for me.
And I'm not referring let's define the search engine. So I'm not talking like the Google search engine. I plug something in, right?
Web crawler,
right? I'm plugging my search engine, right? Being whether it's Copilot, Gemini, right? Searching to solve my problem, right? Meaning when I put that in there, right? Regardless if the code is new. It's the same thing like when I build a spreadsheet, right? And I ask it if I can prompt it to do this, or I build a pivot table, right? The first time that pivot table ever existed or this new output came out was right there, right? But it was searching over data to give me the outputs based on the prompts I was asking for. So in this case,
I'll say the difference between a search engine and what we're talking about here is that a search engine, you get the results and you are responsible for parsing what comes back and creating that product. What this does is a shortcut that it creates the product for you. And then you have to decide, am I going to spend time thinking about making sure this is good enough or right? Or can I just hit send?
Yeah. And this is for the people building.
And that's where that laziness comes in of like, well.
Because then who owns the product that you just built, right? And your ability,
I have to own it.
Right. But let's say.
It's a legal issues too, right?
You built that entire thing. Right. But do you know that code? Do you know that application inside and out? So when now we got to make a change to it, can I make the change yourself or is the AI has to make the change? And do I trust now?
You have to have a guard. You have to have some sort of perimeter around it of humans approving.
I know you're sitting there. I like do it. Just do it.
You need some gargoyles around it. And
it's up to $2.
That's right. To make sure that everything is done appropriately, right? The challenge is when something looks good enough, it's hard to invest your mind. They call it AI slop for a reason, right? Because it comes out and it's good enough, but not necessarily perfect. And going that extra step, that's...
Yes. So we got a couple minutes left. Eric, I want to kind of kick it over to you.
Yeah.
You talked about some of the acquisitions, right? But is there anything that's got you super fired up about 26 in terms of either what you guys are delivering or your product you're launching or anything?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing we have, I think, is the SOC modernization component with our XIM platform, or tool, I should say, which is, that next generation SIM is one way to look at it. I don't even call it a SIM. It's next gen automation in the part of we can adjust any data from anywhere. So you talk about putting data in one spot, we can adjust it from anywhere. We can now take that telemetry and stitch it all together. Like I said, AI is on the back end. We've got AI working based on your orchestration, where then we can use our copilot to start building that orchestration by itself. So it limits and takes that level 1 knowledge you guys have, and then you from a business,
natural language prompt it,
yep,
right, on different asks.
Yep, and then we can build out those progressions. So now we can set up orchestration. So the normal mundane stuff that is being generated at 10 times the velocity of what we used to have it coming at is now getting automated and remediated based on risk associated with it, and then stitching it together. So you might affect 400 workstations on one little event that happened. We can stitch it all together. So you just need to fix it in this one point. And this is the actual task to do that. Do you want me to do it for you? You can tell it yes or no.
And this is current production?
It's current production. That is our SOC automation platform. Yeah, it used to be we had, our endpoint, limitations, but now we can adjust data from anywhere. We can take it from everybody.
AI, when you're talking about using it in the security, right?
Yep.
Over those data sources and be able to search over stuff.
But that was I was involved in the UEBA game when it was machine learning, and the joke was it was 100,000 people looking at log files and just saying it was machine learning, but it's actually real. That was a joke.
But the last thing I'll leave you with, though, is imagine when we talk about the amount of data on the dark web, right? Now think about the amount of data sources that certain individuals, threat actors, organizations have their hands on that they can go ahead and query over,
exactly.
Right? So, this is where it comes back to identity, right? And who we are. And when I talk about education, educating those underneath us, our children, et cetera, right? Why it's important on the social media, what data you're sharing out there of yourself, because all of that's available data, right? So now if they can take PII that's been exposed and sitting on the dark web, stitch that together like you just said, we're talking about the SIM of understanding exactly who Bob is, where he goes, right? And understanding who he works for.
Don't tell me where to put.
We could have a whole nother discussion around post-quantum computing as well.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that.
We're getting the gong, so we appreciate you hanging out. Eric with Palo Alto, Jonathan with Polera. This is going to wrap up segment 2 of the IT and the D show live from the CXO Exchange, and we'll be right back.